Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line. Talking about mail-in voting, and we have with us Albert Tieche. He was the former administrator of elections in Davidson County, and Marian. She's with the Tennessee League of Women Voters. They are joining us via Zoom, and several calls. All right, the last caller, Taylor, wondered why, I'll try and paraphrase, why some states have different laws when it comes to counting these ballots, and was frustrated, thinks the federal government should make them more uniform. Albert Tieche, what do you say to what Taylor just said?
You know, this election has pointed up the differences in laws from state to state. Each state writes their laws. There are several federal voting laws that dictate some aspects to the state. NVRA, HAVA, those two federal laws have given states some guidelines, but the states still have a lot of flexibility. And all of a sudden, I've heard just in the last couple of days, maybe in the last 24 hours, that there should be federal laws on exactly how it's done. And I'm kind of two different minds on this. I have not come down with, do we really want the federal government dictating to all 50 states just exactly how they do? Do we want a one size fits all? Or do we want the states to function as laboratories and let them do it different ways, how they see fit? I don't have an answer to that, although I must say, starting to count your absentees after the polls close doesn't make any sense to me. In Tennessee, you start that absentee counting board starts that morning, and this is one of the things that's interesting about that. They're kind of locked in. You got to bring them food. You take away their cell phones so they can't call anybody and tell them. They count those absentee ballots. If they finish at noon, guess what? They got to sit there till 7 o'clock till we let them out of the room. And they can't have their cell phones and they can't call people, but they get that counting done. It makes no sense to me to wait until after the polls close to start counting your absentees. If you're trying to administer an election, that's just time wasted. I would rather have my absentee counting board in there counting now.
Right.
Maybe we just need to pick up on that and do that. When I first heard that, I thought, that's crazy. They ought to start counting.
Here on this article I'm reading, it says Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin election officials were not allowed to begin processing absentee ballots until on or just before Election Day, after the state legislatures successfully opposed changing the laws to allow earlier preparations. Those were Republican legislatures. So they wanted to, but then they weren't allowed to begin counting. And then you're stuck. You have tons of ballots that have to be counted, and they take longer. And here's where we are.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. I would want my absentee people counting first thing in the morning, with the understanding that they may have to stay locked in.
And I like how that happens in Davidson County and in Tennessee. I like that they're locked in. They can't be out talking about it. I like that. All right, let's get another call. Let's go to Carolyn. Hello, Carolyn.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity of taking my call, and also for the fact that I just voted last night, and it was really a lot of fun to do, and I just wanted to say thank you for this discussion. I really appreciate it, and I think it'll really impact people my age and everybody for our future generations. So thank you.
Carolyn, how old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay, well, very good. Okay. Well, I hope it impacts people of your age and others, all ages.
Thank you for being a voter.
Yes. All right, I have a question, and I heard this question. Let's say I voted by mail. And I'll ask you this, Marian, Albert. I know you can answer. Both of you can chime in if you need to. Let's say I vote by mail. I send in my mail-in ballot. Then what's to keep me from going and voting on Election Day and then having voted twice? This was a question that came up.
Okay, well, once your absentee ballot is received, you're marked as having voted. So when you show up on Election Day, you won't be on the list as eligible to vote. Now, you might argue with the poll official, and maybe they'll have you vote a provisional ballot, but it still won't count because they're going to check it against the fact that they've already got a ballot from you.
I think that's right, but I would add one little change. I think, and I have to go back and look at the law book, I think that designation is made when the absentee ballot is mailed. I don't think it's made.
Right, when it's mailed. Exactly right, exactly right.
And I have had people show up at the polls and say, I want to vote. You look them up on the poll book, says, I'm sorry, you asked for an absentee ballot. We sent you one. And they go, oh yeah, I don't know where that thing is. I lost it, I left it at home, but I'm here to vote. And the answer there is, I'm so sorry about that. advice to you is you need to go home and get that absentee ballot and bring it back, or you could vote provisional.
Vote provisional.
Right. Vote provisional. But that answers one concern that I heard from someone, that people are voting twice, and you don't feel like that is happening you don't feel like that's happening.
That's not, it's not possible unless, it's just not possible if the system is followed, because once a ballot is mailed out to you, you're marked as having voted absentee by mail. Now, you can track your ballot to make sure it got back, and if it didn't get back, then you can go to your polling place and ask for a provisional ballot, and that's another paper ballot. And then after the election, after all the absentee ballots are processed, they will compare your provisional ballot, or your name, to the list. And if they check off that they've received that ballot back from you, your provisional ballot will not count. But if they didn't get your ballot back, it will.
Go ahead. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Well, Marian and I are agreeing on so much, I feel like you're not getting your money's worth.
No, I want you all to agree. That's fine. I want you all to agree that the system is good. Okay, let's go for the greater good. I'm not looking for two people the greater good. If it's true, agree.
Tennessee system pretty well, and we both like Tennessee's system. One of the things that I thought of, is it possible to vote twice? Well, it's really, really hard. And one of the things I would point out is that opportunity for fraud. Let's say you have an elderly parent living with you who is in dementia. Maybe they're on the permanent absentee list. That absentee ballot comes in the front door for mama or daddy. Mom and daddy are in dementia. Sorry. There's an opportunity there. You can fill that ballot out. Well, I know how daddy would have voted. I'm going to fill it out and I'm going to send it in. I'm also going to vote mine. Yeah, you could vote twice there. And I know personally of instances where that has happened in Tennessee. Now, you're talking about small numbers there.
Right.
But it's fraud the same. And one of the other things I want to point out where I think Marian and I have a disagreement is the absentee processes are there to prevent fraud. And I was looking in the law book in the absentee ballot section in Tennessee 26201 in the notes to the decisions. Number 3, violations. Violations of the absentee voting statutes present the opportunity for fraud. Now that's in the law book, written in 1972 when the legislature was majority Democrat, written by Democrats and Republicans who are saying, hey, look, violations of the process opens up an opportunity for fraud. That's not a Republican or Democrat thing. That's looking at the opportunities in the chain of custody. So that's one area I think we disagree on. It's there. You always want that to be in minuscule numbers. You want that to be in tiny numbers. So election administrators love landslides, because then if you have some little error like that, it's not.
And this election doesn't appear to be that. This presidential election. No. I will take a break. We'll come back for, I believe, one more segment with our guests. Take a break. Be back right after this.